Welcome back to the Barrel Talk Podcast. We are back with another episode of Let's Talk About It. In this episode, we are going to be continuing our series of doing a deep dive into every single NBA team this upcoming season. In this episode, we're going to be focusing on the Utah Jazz, a team that has a very mixed bag of talent right now. They're kind of in the meteor portion of a rebuild where they have a lot of guys on good tradable contracts that they could flip for more draft capital and bring in some other bad contracts and flip those. You guys know the deal. So looking at this, very interesting offseason, very good offseason. I feel like getting Cody Williams is a very high upside pick, which is something the Utah Jazz and their organization needs to swing for, especially with their market and being a smaller market in a place like Utah. They're not going to be attracting a ton of sexy free agents. So looking at this, draft Cody Williams with your lottery pick. You get Isaiah Collier, who at one point in time was a top 3, top 5 guy in this draft class, but I feel like kind of went to USC. He had a really, really good year last year, but I feel like him slipping and falling is going to really bite a lot of teams and come back for them by the end of next season. I feel like he can really be the point guard of the future for this Utah Jazz team. I think he has a load of potential, and I feel like he can really balance out and have a good backcourt of Isaiah Collier and a Keontae George, if you want to consider Keontae George moving him to the 2, which I feel like he is better suited. I feel like I get a lot more of a CJ McCollum-esque vibe from Keontae George, somebody who can play the 1, but is more of an elite 2 guard who can play off the ball and just have more of a scorer's mindset. And I feel like Isaiah Collier and Keontae George should be a very, very fun backcourt to watch unfold for this Utah Jazz in the future, depending on what they do with a Colin Sexton and a Jordan Clarkson, right? Then you get Kyle Filipowski at the top of the second round, which I feel like a lot of the off-court stuff led to him kind of possibly being pushed to the second round. He was kind of weirdly placed in a lot of mocks because he was kind of a weird place big. He was like one of the only bigs left with like a Day'Ron Holmes and Yves Missi, and he kind of fell, and a lot of the off-the-court stuff kind of came to the light throughout the end of the draft process. So looking at that, you still have 3 really, really good draft picks, and I feel like Kyle Filipowski can kind of be like a little bit, I don't think he's going to be as good as Walker Kessler is, but he kind of gives you more leverage and leeway to possibly move somebody like Walker Kessler, somebody who have been floating around a lot in trade rumors. I'm not sure why. You guys can let me know in the comments of why they kind of are moving Walker Kessler around a lot in trade talks. Still young, great rim protector. I think he fits perfectly next to a Lauri Markkanen, who they just wrapped up and extended, who is no longer in trade talks. I feel like Lauri Markkanen has been in trade talks for like the past 2 years. You extend him to a long-term contract. He can't even be traded all of next season, and the Golden State Warriors miss out on trading for him. If I'm the Utah Jazz, I mean, you have all kind of the leverage in the world when it came to that situation with trading Lauri Markkanen. Like, you're going to try to get the most bang for your buck, even with Lauri Markkanen kind of being like that fringe, like, I don't really know. Let me know in the comments where you guys would like rank Lauri Markkanen as a player. I think he's like a difference maker, but I don't know if he's like, if the Warriors would have got him, it would have been the craziest difference maker in the world. So it's like, I feel like both sides not doing the move kind of made sense. But looking at like this potential starting 5 going into next season, Colin Sexton, Keontae George, I think Taylor Hendricks at the 3. You guys can let me know, like, I feel like them bringing back Lauri Markkanen could overshine the development of Taylor Hendricks, who really didn't get a whole lot of playing time last year. And then it's going to be an interesting situation for like Cody Williams, who's kind of in the same position as a Taylor Hendricks and kind of being more of a small forward. Is like, you already have Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, Taylor Hendricks. Now you have like Cody Williams in that forward room as well. Like, it just seems like it's a lot going on there in Utah, and they kind of need to kind of pick and choose. I think Taylor Hendricks can provide you a lot of length and size and scoring ability, because towards the back half of the year, he was really, really good and really impressive in those limited minutes. I feel like this is the year to kind of give him more of an expanded role. Playing him next to a Keontae George and a Lauri Markkanen can kind of have him be able to really develop, I feel like, a lot easier than having like him on a team with like no Lauri Markkanen, and they're just kind of throwing him out there to the wolves because he is still super, super young. So looking at that, I think he's going to be given the nod to start over Cody Williams. I think Cody Williams is going to come off the bench this first year because he is a really, really raw prospect. And I feel like he's going to need some time to really develop and find his role and way into the league. Lauri Markkanen and then Walker Kessler. And this team has a bunch of guys off the bench that could be traded, like a Jordan Clarkson still. Then you have like guys like Isaiah Collier. I think Kyle Filipowski might spend some more time in the G League. You still have like John Collins. Like, John Collins is somebody who I'm very shocked wasn't in more trade rumors than I would have thought. He's on a bigger contract, but if I'm like, even a team like the Warriors, who they were like in deep discussions with, I'm like, why didn't they just pivot to try to get like John Collins? I know his contract's bigger and it's on like 2 more years left on it, but I mean, he can kind of give you kind of the same, not at a high enough level of a Lauri Markkanen production, but he can kind of give you a little something. So I think John Collins is still a very big kind of name for this Utah Jazz team to move, especially with a Jordan Clarkson. I am still super, super shocked that Jordan Clarkson is even on the roster, in my opinion, because Jordan Clarkson is somebody that has kind of had a weird value now, because when the Utah Jazz were good, he was like, oh, 6th man of the year kind of potential, like any contender would want a Jordan Clarkson. Now he got to a position where his role is a lot bigger and he may be a little bit more inefficient than teams would like. But I feel like Jordan Clarkson in the right role on the right team could be a very valuable asset to a team. And I feel like I'm so shocked that the Utah Jazz haven't really found a trade partner with him. And I feel like Jordan Clarkson going to like a bench role now could unlock kind of that 6th man of the year like ability that he does have, being a kind of microwave guy off the bench that can kind of grow his trade value back up. Because I feel like these past 2 years in Utah have kind of been a little bit skewing for his trade value in certain cases. And I feel like that's kind of a big reason why he hasn't been moved. John Collins is a weird fit on this team with what they have going forward. Like I said, I think John Collins could definitely be a name at this deadline, kind of going into like expectations to really be on the move. Even guys like on this team, like I just feel like they have such a mixed bag of talent to where like they could really cash in their chips for more future assets and better fitting pieces going forward. Because looking at this, like Colin Sexton could possibly be getting moved. I feel like his trade value is going to be increasingly higher and higher and higher by the time the deadline rolls around, to where they might have no choice but to be like, look, Colin Sexton, we like you, but we have Isaiah Collier, Keontae George, we got to get you out of here so we can develop these guys. Same with kind of like a John Collins and the Taylor Hendricks and Cody Williams. The only guy that I really think is safe is obviously Lauri Markkanen, because he signed the extension. Even like a Walker Kessler, if a team is desperate enough at the deadline due to an injury, how big is the price on Walker Kessler? How big is that return? So it's going to be very interesting to see. I feel like this is going to be the biggest pivotal team at the deadline because of the talent that they do have for contending teams to really, really like it and have interest in. But for the team as a whole, right? Expectations I have for the team are than like trades or anything else like that. I expect this team to be bad. I expect this team to kind of be a little bit worse than they were last year. I think they have a lot of talent that's going to keep them in games. That's why I think they're going to be a big seller at the deadline, because this is a very... But if I'm somebody in like a Utah Jazz front office, or if I'm a Utah Jazz fan, yes, we have Lauri Markkanen wrapped up. We have a lot of young talent, but I'm like, is missing out on a play-in race that we really shouldn't be competing for, when we could just, I'd rather be in the mix for a Cooper Flag than be in the play-in mix, right? That's kind of my mindset going into this year. That's my expectations. I would rather be hunting for a higher and higher lottery pick with how good this 2025 draft class is, compared to fighting for a play-in spot when you really know you don't have the talent. You have the talent to compete and be in a lot of games, but the play-in, I feel like that's just a big of a stretch, and I feel like I just like the other side of that. I like the side of just building for the future, trying to get a good draft pick, and kind of building through that way. The main question I have for the Utah Jazz going into this upcoming year, who are the building block guys? I've said like the guys I think will be traded at the deadline, and I think there will be big time sellers, but who are the building block guys? Like you have Lauri Markkanen, obviously, who was a building block piece now. You didn't give him all that money for no reason. You have Taylor Hendricks, who I feel like you need more of a bigger sample size to see of what you're truly fully getting. Keontae George was great last year in his rookie year. Where does he fit? Does he fit more of a 1 or a 2? That's a question that needs to be figured out this year. Isaiah Collier, I think he can be the point guard of the future. Should he be in the backcourt next to Keontae George defensively? Who knows? We'll see how that plays out. So there's a lot of questions, but the main overlying question is, who are the building block kind of guys outside of the guys that you're looking to try to sell to build for your future, and the guys that you're really looking to develop? Because I feel like there's a lot of guys that should be playing on this team, but it's kind of hindering some of the development of the guys that you believe are your building blocks. So I feel like that's a big kind of underlying question for the Utah Jazz going into this upcoming season. But that is all I have for this episode of Let's Talk About It. Thank you guys for tuning into the Barrel Talk Podcast. Hope to see you tune in to future episodes.